This episode of Profiles in Advocacy features host Melanie Taddeo and Sean Pickard. Sean is the station manager for V4A Studios in Canada. He also lives with a brain injury. Sean's work in digital media helps give a voice to the issues and faces of disability. His work helps build community, broadens access to information, and serves as an instrument of representation, key features of what defines the practice of advocacy. As Sean points out in this Season 3 focus on Profiles in Advocacy, his approach to advocacy is perhaps the simplest, since just about anyone can pick up a mic and start recording and sharing. Keep listening to learn more about Voices for Ability Radio, by, for, and about people with disabilities, and how the use of a microphone has helped shape one man's approach to making the world a more accessible and inclusive place.
It's really exciting in Season 3. We get to connect with leaders and change makers in our community, and today's interview is no different. I am thrilled to be joined by Sean Pickard, who is our station manager for Voices for Ability Radio. Welcome, Sean.
Hey, Melanie, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing well. Little painful today. We got some rain going on here, and you know how that affects me. So,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I hear you. But you know what? Rain brings, well, I was going to say brings the flowers, but that would be spring. So fall, I don't know what to tell you.
yeah, we got a little bit to wait. The flowers will be nice when they do come by, though.
There you go. All right. So let's start off by getting you to introduce yourself a bit. Tell us who Sean Pickard is from the beginning. Give us some background, please.
Oh, some background. Well, let's see. I think one of the most important factors I need to start with is I identify myself as a dude with a brain injury. So that's actually how I got to Voices for Ability Radio. Now, to fill in that backstory, ladies and gentlemen, I started out life as a printer. So 20 plus years of daily exposure to chemicals and a little bit of lead along the way, it turned me into an individual with a brain injury and nerve damage. And I found myself, going from being a very dynamic person out doing things and constantly on the go to stuff on the couch. I don't want to say I was lost, but I had lost myself, if that makes any sense. I couldn't get my stuff going, but I've got, a world around me that needs attention, things I've got to take care of just as an individual. So it ended up being the situation where, this really dynamic individual who starts out life as a printer and kind of moves through things and ends up at the top of the trade to, find out the trade is all but disappearing. So I had to recreate myself and ended up in financial services. So I ended up at this point where I talked to a lot of people all the time. So I had progressed as an individual through my life, just, going from operating a press to doing different things in the industry to the point where I needed to recreate myself. And that's when everything that I'd done before, all the chemicals and all that came back to, kind of smack me. That's what turned me into stuff on the couch. So one of those people that starts out as one thing and moves on to something else and moves ahead and moves ahead and moves ahead and suddenly just tossed backwards. And just trying to find a way out of that. And I'll be honest with you, Melanie, here, the medical end of things, as good as it is in Canada, were really no help to me, right? And so I had to find ways around it. And that's when I found out about Voices for Ability Radio and Connect for Life. My ability to join the programs that Connect for Life was offering, a part of that was Voices for Ability Radio. That got me going again. That got the processing, gave me something to do, and it was having someone around who would help me get through day to day, someone such as yourself, for example. That really moved me to where I am, where I could start processing and getting things done. And then today, well, as an individual who's looking after something like Voices for Ability Radio, where, let's be honest, Melanie, if this was all about me, it'd be nothing but hard rock and metal 24/7. But
Yeah, don't give me that much carte blanche. Pretty much, but
no,
yeah.
no.
But
But you see, I've got to create something that's it's meaningful to a number of people.
definitely. And I remember when we first connected at your interview for an accessible voice in broadcasting, and I was like, my goodness, he has a radio voice for sure. And really just watching you go through not only the course, but just kind of, like you said, find yourself. It was really interesting because already we knew that you were facing some barriers, like you mentioned with the medical field, and getting what you needed to get the support you needed. And that process took a lot of advocating on both of our parts. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There was a lot of conversation back and forth between you and I. How do we do this? Where do I find support for that? But the big thing in the meantime, while we were doing that, is I still had to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
What's
And
the next step? What am I doing now? I've got this. I got to do this. I've got to do that. I got to do the. It doesn't matter. Pick something. Do it. Do something.
And what was that? Was it isolating? Was it frustrating? Like, how did it make you feel?
At times it was isolating because you're trying so hard to get yourself over this little hump that's right in front of you. And that's all it is a little hump. But when you're standing there faced with it, it's like a mountain. But how do you get through it, get over it, get around it, whatever the case may be? And being able to have those conversations with you was enough to keep me kind of centered. Say, okay, we do this. And then, okay, next step. Okay, next step. Okay, next step. Because there's no, okay, we do this and we get to the end. It just doesn't happen that way. The game isn't played that way. There's steps. There's things you need to do in the middle, people and things that get in the way. And you have to deal with all of them.
Absolutely. That's life, right?
That's life. That's right. But when you're an individual with a disability, and for me, the brain injury, it leaves you with that inability to process at times.
Mm-hmm.
So you're sitting there going, hey, yeah, everything's great. And then someone goes, so what about this? Now all of a sudden, well, things aren't so great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, what I noticed was your zest for wanting to move yourself forward, the will, the determination, and willingness to get there and to do the work to get there. So not only did I see you succeed in the course, but also your interest in Voices for Ability. And that's going to segue nicely into my next question. So tell us about Voices for Ability Radio. What is it? Tell us everything, please.
Okay, so Voices for Ability Radio, or V4ARadio.com, ladies and gentlemen. Click Listen Live. You'll hear exactly what's going on there. But Voices for Ability was started, about a little over a decade ago, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it was started as a way to get information out to the community of individuals with disabilities. There is, at that point in time, and still there isn't, but we're working on changing this, there was no central repository, no list of who does what to help individuals with disabilities in Canada. And that's one of the neat things about Canada is with our healthcare system, it doesn't matter. Vancouver, up to Whitehorse, across to Gander, down to Windsor, or anywhere in between. As an individual with a disability, you should expect the same treatment. But the people and places that offer those services and resources, they're different. And there's no list, as we mentioned earlier. So one of the great things about Voices is we get to start creating that list, having a conversation with the organizations that impact individuals with disabilities on a daily basis. What do you do? Where are you located? How do people get a hold of you? What are the restrictions? Things of that nature. We actually find out from these organizations how they impact people's lives. And we put that information out there in an easy to digest format. It's just, for example, myself talking with one of the folks at the organization and getting those answers so that folks know they can call this person. They can email this place. There's a name or something that they can reach out to help them get through what they are going through. And the neat thing about that, Melanie, is everybody's on their own path. Everybody's different. But there's a lot of similarities and a lot of overlap between cases of individuals where, one individual with a brain injury might have, well, for example, myself and another individual, both of us have a brain injury. We're similar. The things I deal with on a daily basis are different from what that person does.
Mm-hmm.
And the only similarity we really have is the brain injury.
Right.
Whereas someone else on the other side of the room who also has a brain injury, they're dealing with about 50% of what I'm dealing with and 50% of what the other person's dealing with. So once again, we've got a third person in here now, and it's similar, but totally different. So being able to express that information and make it so that folks can find a community of people who are going through what they're going through, get information, and try and make their life easier. Don't just leave it up to the doctors. Don't look for that magic, the silver bullet or anything like that. You got to work at it. And being able to provide this hub or work at this hub that provides that information, for me, is just awesome. Now, one of the great things about our shows are all handled. They're written, hosted, produced. They're handled by an individual with a disability through every step of the creative and production process. And I've actually got a book here, Melanie, with 40 or 50 different show ideas in it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of stuff that still needs to be talked about at the station. A lot of different topics that I need people to, fill the chair for, shall we say. But we've talked a lot about the information that Voices provides. I'd like to talk about one of the twists that I made to the station, which is the music that we play now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the music that we play at Voices for Ability Radio is 100% Canadian content of emerging artists. So the folks that are usually playing in the bars on the weekend, the places that are usually inaccessible to individuals with disabilities, we're giving them a new audience by putting their music on the station. And the folks that are out there listening at home, we're giving them an opportunity to hear what's going on in the bars, and we're giving them the best seat in the house with better beverage pricing.
There you go.
I just love what we can do with Voices. We got a lot of information. We got some great entertainment, some great musicians, and everything we do is Canadian. So very, very happy about that.
That's amazing. And the other thing that I really love is that a lot of the graduates in accessible voice and broadcasting are able to not only contribute by helping out, whether with editing or being a member on the ability panel, one of the shows that you have where they share their insights, or even a host. After they've completed the course, they have a podcast, perhaps that's something the station is looking for. There's lots of opportunities. So it's kind of like a beautiful segue from what we do in the classroom right into the actual live opportunity with Voices. So tell us a little bit about what that experience has been, not only for yourself, but also as other graduates have come to Voices. Do you have any success stories you want to share?
Oh, I have a couple of success stories here, Melanie. But before I get into the success stories, I think I think we need to talk about what some of these shows can do for an individual.
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Because leading into a success story, this is an opportunity. Do I have my list of 40 or 50 shows? Yes, I do. But there are a lot of folks out there that will come to me and say, I'm dealing with this. I have this idea for a show. That's a good idea. Let's put some legs on it. And we're able to take them through the process and give that individual a voice that they never thought they would ever have, right? And in some cases, maybe it's not even about getting a show for the station, but it's about giving someone a voice. It's about giving someone a platform. It's about equalizing the playing field so that one person can actually express themselves in a way they want to, not what's being forced upon them. So I really love what we do with the program, in accessible voice and broadcasting, being able to teach individuals, this is what you want to say, or not so much this is what you want to say, but take what you want to say. This is how you're going to say it. And we're going to present it this way on the podcast. And it really, really helps people express themselves in a creative way. You reduce a lot of the frustration in some people's lives by giving them an opportunity to create something. This is going back a few years, Melanie, but I remember probably in high school, it was one of those times, they talk about how you have to deal with things, and it was write someone a letter. You don't have to mail it, but write them a letter. You've expressed yourself. You've gotten your thoughts and your opinion out. They don't necessarily need to see it, but you've done that for yourself. And that is a huge part for individuals with disabilities as well. Here's an opportunity. You've got a microphone. You've got something that you can record with. Get your thoughts out. Make yourself feel better. You don't have to send it anywhere, right? You don't have to give it to anyone, but get your thoughts out. Make yourself feel better. And so when we bring people in to take this program, and we've got folks that are all over the place, shall we say. I know for myself, I when I came in, I wanted to make change. What am I going to change? Don't know. I need to change something. And that was kind of what I went forward with. Other folks come in, I just wanted to be able to talk better. I want to be able to sit down at a job interview and not go, all the time. And we've had a number of those folks come in. So everyone comes in with basically a different idea, a different goal of what they're taking from the program. And I've seen some folks come in just because, well, we've talked about, they just want to sound better. They want to communicate better. And then they end up coming out of it going, I have this idea for a show. What do you think? And all of a sudden, they're a fixture at the station. Right? Because we gave them the opportunity to express, and they didn't feel their opinion was worth expressing until they learned how to express it. Then all of a sudden, it's like, well, what if I said that? Other students we've had come through, one of my personal favorites, I'm not going to give you a name here.
No, of course, yeah.
But this young lady just needed people that understood her. She was trying so hard to make a go of it in what we'll call the real world, where people really don't care whether you have a disability or not. And when you're in the middle of doing something, if you need an accommodation, well, that's an inconvenience to them. And some people get upset about that. And this young lady came to us just needing someone around her, someone to help her find herself, similar to me. And I have watched this young lady grow. Okay, she picked up some guitars, didn't know anything about music. Before she took the program, we start going through all the stuff. We learn how to record, and all of a sudden, she's interested in guitar. Now she's playing piano, too. This young lady just needed company. Not even company, she needed a community. And when she found that community, she found that she could say, I'm interested in this, or I'm interested in that. And she started progressing with her own life, following her own interest, what she wanted to do. And she found a way to start moving herself forward little by little, very similar to me, through music. And it was something that she had never done before. So for me, I'm really proud. I mean, she's doing a lot at the station now. I don't want to say too much and give things away.
Yeah.
But I'm just so impressed with how far she's come from day one, and still doing more. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And I think it's important to acknowledge that everybody's journey is unique. And when it comes to Connect for Life and Voices, that we're going to meet them where they're at and help them flourish. And this is just one example. But I am going to segue us, because we know that Voices for Ability, or any media, let's just be general for media, is a beautiful opportunity and a platform for advocacy. What ways have you seen Voices for Ability or other media help people advocate for causes or for any sort of thing that is happening in the community that maybe otherwise wouldn't be covered?
That's a great question, Melanie. And the number of, for lack of a better term, jobs that have ended up at my feet. Suddenly an organization finds out about what we do. And then I get that email. we have this event coming up next week. Can you do us a commercial?
Mm.
I never thought I would be doing anything like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. So creating awareness about what's happening in the community. For example, let's look at like Ability Panel and some of the other shows that you have on Voices that allows our participants or hosts or whoever have their say, their perspective on an issue that is relating to their everyday life as an individual with disabilities. Do you find that that helps get the word out there to the right people to help make change?
Oh, absolutely. Because a lot of people don't even know, A, that we exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when they try and connect with other organizations in their neighborhood or in their province, whatever the case may be, they're not always getting folks. They'll sit down with an interview for us, and it's like, well, have you talked to so-and-so, or have you talked to this place, or someone else? And all of a sudden, the lights are going off. And we've created a little bond in their community that helps move those organizations' clients or members forward a little bit, because now those organizations are working together a little closer. Fewer people are falling through the cracks just by introducing organizations to organizations. Now you add into the fact that people can go and listen to our stuff and go, oh, they'll help me? So the advocacy bit that we do, a lot of it comes down to just providing the information, just giving folks the ability to do something themselves or move their organization forward with other organizations. I mean, the advocacy, this is the really hard question, Melanie, because there's so many little things that impact advocacy that I'm probably glossing over most of them. I mean, the first one I went to was commercials, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, the Ability Panel. Let's talk about that for a second, because that's a show where individuals with disabilities can come in and they'll talk about what's going on in their life. What are they dealing with? Now, one of my favorite ones, we usually have at least one of these a year, is dealing with family at holidays, right? We got the holidays coming up soon. And you know that's always the time you got to go out. There's parties, there's friends, there's family, there's lots of stuff on the go with lots of snow, usually. So it makes it harder to get around while you have to do these things. So I love having that conversation. And the Ability Panel gives folks the opportunity to listen to what someone else does. And this is where you start separating the wheat from the chaff, as they say. And you'll hear someone who's dealing with something similar to you, and they talk about how one thing helps them and they're doing this and that and the other. And you may be sitting there going, yeah, but I tried that. It doesn't work. That's fine. It doesn't work for you. It does work for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also had someone else go, wait a second, they just said this. So the first thing didn't work, but the second thing didn't. And I've also had a third person who was in that conversation go, wait a minute, I haven't tried either of those. And they put both A and B together and got even further than the first two.
Which makes sense. And so it not only is helping the individuals, but it's also helping the listeners. I remember a couple episodes on there, whether it was about unemployment for individuals with disabilities, the barriers that they face, or even with the healthcare, inaccessibility of healthcare. We've had many conversations on the Ability Panel on those topics, and I've actually had people reach out based on those Ability Panels to the charity asking for more information. So I know that what you guys are doing at Voices, as far as advocating on behalf of individuals with disabilities, it does make an impact outside of our little community. But what I really wanted to kind of next move to is still on the topic of advocacy and media, is we have some great partnerships with some different media um, partners for an accessible voice in broadcasting. But what has been your experience when it comes to having the crossover? So what I mean, they know about us, they know what we do, they know the gaps of representation of individuals with disabilities in the media. But what have you seen as far as advocacy by them partnering with us? What has been the change that you've noticed?
What I've noticed is a lot more of our students are being accepted by these organizations.
Mm-hmm.
This always goes with a grain of salt because individuals are different. But I always get feedback from about what we need to improve.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got what they need. And we've actually had, well, I shouldn't say we, I have had people, one organization in particular, who reached out to me and said, this person wants to work with us. We can't take them. They don't have what we need. Can you work with them for a little bit? Because they wanted this person in their stable, but they didn't have what they needed. So they sent them to me before I sent them back to them.
So again, that partnership, that collaboration, and ultimately is getting it back into the mainstream media. I also know that a lot of the broadcasters that have come in as guest speakers have said that this is so important for their organization as a whole to see how much talent is out there in broadcasting that is not being brought into the mainstream because of the lack of representation. And so that this is a good segue to it, because when we look at media as a whole, advocacy is such an integral part, getting the voices and the stories out to the public and different communities to hear about what's happening, whether it's a success or something that's troublesome, something that's making sure that people are aware of. So again, advocacy is so vast in the media. And I think that there's so many opportunities for voices and for Connect for Life to carry on in making sure that advocacy, having different shapes, forms, and faces, is always coming through in the work we do. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. It's always coming through in the work we do. Maybe it's just me here, Melanie, but I think we should put some numbers here so that folks have a little better understanding of what we're talking about with advocacy in media. Because the 2024 census numbers, they put individuals with disabilities in Canada at approximately 27% of the population. So that's over a quarter of the Canadian population are individuals with disabilities or difficulties with at least one activity of daily living. So that is a huge number. Now you look at the media, and what type of representation do we have of individuals with disabilities in media? Well, I got some older numbers here, because 2019 CRTC did a study, and they found that approximately 10% of the Canadian population were qualified to work in media, but only 3% of the media industry actually identifies as individuals with disabilities.
So just to clarify, it's 10% of people with disabilities are qualified to work in broadcasting, correct?
Correct. Did I miss that part?
Okay. Yes, but that's okay.
Yes.
And only 3% are being represented. Interesting.
It is. So there's a huge gap of people that are qualified, but they're not up there. The question then becomes, why is that? Why do we not have that representation, right? So it's really, really unique for us to be in this position where we can actually change some of those numbers. We know what the numbers are. We have the opportunity to change them. We're kind of playing the house here, right? We're trying to beat the house.
Right. And again, I think as we move forward with voices, that's my next question is what comes next for voices? What does the future hold for Voices for Ability Radio and Sean as station manager?
What does the future hold? Well, the future consists of us getting bigger. More people knowing our name, more people knowing that we're here to entertain them, to bring them information, just more people knowing about us. Like I said, I got about 50 show ideas in that book there, Melanie, so I need about 150 people to make that happen. And that's across the country because everything I do is virtual, it's digital. As long as I'm getting good quality content, and I need representation from across the country for this content for individuals with various disabilities. Some of the advice for an individual with a brain injury may not necessarily be the same for an individual with a visual impairment. So having that representation for everyone is very, very important to me. And just having that community where this is acceptance, right? It's not about, oh, you have a brain injury, you're over here, or you have a visual impairment, you're over here. No. We're all here because we're all individuals with disabilities. We all want some help. We all want some community. We all want something. even if it's just to listen to some good music, we're there for a reason. So what's in the future for voices? Getting bigger, getting out there, making sure that more people know about us and more people listen to us for what we bring to them.
Amazing. And how can people learn more about Voices for Ability Radio? Where can they go to catch the website or any socials?
V4ARadio.com. Click Listen Live. You'll hear exactly what's going on. That icon is right there in the center of the screen when it comes up. And if people are looking for socials, they can check out V4A Studios on YouTube, Instagram. I believe there's something on Facebook. Check all the socials anyways. Blue Sky, X, all of them. And look for V4A Studios. That is us. That is our content. That is what we are doing. But V4A Radio is not allowed on social media, so V4A Studios is holding our wares for us.
And that's great. And I wanted to clarify that. That's why I asked the question. So thank you so much. But Sean, I want to thank you for joining us and for sharing your story, but also for sharing a bit about voices and the many faces that advocacy have in the media. But I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And until next time.
You have been listening to Connect for Life, the podcast. Connect for Life is a Canadian-based registered charity committed to eliminating barriers for people with disabilities. Visit connectforlife.ca and join us in helping people with disabilities become the champions of their growth stories.